Ren, 16 years old, a member of the Haber family in the Herman Kingdom. Arrested for refusing to obey military service, he contradicted the kingdom's recruiting officer many times, and was sentenced to exile in the Sand Sea of Despair, and was forbidden to step into the Herman Kingdom for life. The airship of the Herman Kingdom dropped Ren in the Sea of Despair, and the endless soft sand landed on a large rock, killing him on the spot. So the self who passed through happened to occupy this body, from Earth to Ren Haber from another world. Coincidentally, the traverser is also called Lei En, but his surname is Lei, and his single name is a word for grace. Maybe it's not a coincidence, maybe the system had already selected Ren from another world when he crossed over, knowing that he would die, so he allowed himself to occupy this body. System Ren Haber was exiled to the Sea of Despair. Please go east through the desert, find a suitable environment for survival, and start your journey to another world. Hearing the beep beeping in his ear, Ren staggered and stood up, feeling dizzy. Silently reciting map, a transparent virtual screen immediately appeared in front of him, with a huge map interface on it. It's just that the entire map is black, except for a small spot of light where he is, showing the Sea of Despair. The rest of the map is shrouded in the fog of war. As a traverser, Ren's Golden Finger is the single-player sandbox game system that he was playing before traversing. The settings are exactly the same as those of the game. The map is shrouded in the fog of war where he has not reached. You must enter this area to unlock the range map. Now there is only a map perspective of the Despair Sand Sea area, and there are no landmarks in the desert area. Except for its own icon, nothing can be seen on the entire map. The beginning is mode. There is nothing, and you have to get out of the desert. Ren glanced around, and the faint bones in the desert proved that more exiles had died here. System, you are injured and must be treated in time. There was no need to summon the character interface at all, there was a severe pain in the head, and the hot blood was constantly flowing down his cheeks. Ren could feel it himself. The original owner of the body fell from a high altitude, slammed his head against a big rock, and his head was broken long ago. The dizziness was caused by a head injury and continuous bleeding. In order to avoid dying soon after crossing, Ren had to bandage the wound to stop the bleeding. For ordinary people, after falling in the desert and suffering such severe head trauma, there is basically no way to survive. Fortunately, Ren has a golden finger, and he has been transformed into an existence similar to a game character in the moment of crossing, and he can use the system function to save himself. Even if the damage is more serious, even if there is only 1 HP left, as long as it is treated in time, it can recover quickly. As long as you don't let your HP go to 0, everything will be fine. There was no hemostatic medicine on his hand, no bandages, fortunately he couldn't help it. Although the prison uniform on his body is thin, it can be torn into pieces of cloth to make the simplest bandages. Rough prisoner's clothes and prisoner's pants are the only possessions on the body. Ren took off his clothes, and after tearing it, he turned it into strips of linen, and bandaged the wound on his head. The bandaging technique was unprofessional. Although it was ugly, at least the bleeding was successfully stopped. There are still some rags left, and the income virtual backpack is temporarily stored, which can be used in many places. Treat the wound and look up at the scorching sun. The time should be in the morning, and soon after the sun rises, it already makes people feel the majesty of a sweltering summer. It's hard to imagine the temperature at noon. Now the sand is a little hot. As an exiled prisoner, he doesn't even have shoes, so it will be terribly hot by then. Walking out of the desert barefoot? This is not a good idea. Also, after tearing up the prison uniform and walking in the desert with your shirtless, you will get sunburned very quickly. So he turned his attention to the faintly visible corpses in the sand not far away, looking forward to finding something that could be used. He staggered to the nearest position, and gently ripped open the sand. It turned out to be a human skeleton inside. Exile's bones, it can be searched. Touching a corpse is the most basic operation to obtain loot in the game. Ren folded his hands towards the skeleton and bowed a few times. Don't be surprised. Then start searching. System, you got the prisoner's shirt. System, you got prisoner pants. The thing obtained from the skeleton is also a two-piece set of exiles. Although the durability of the equipment is not high, it is better than nothing. Wearing a top, at least not afraid of sunburn, pants can be torn into linen. I went to search for other skeletons nearby, and they were basically two-piece suits of prisoner's shirt and prisoner's pants, with no other props. Until the last skeleton was searched, a pair of linen shoes finally appeared. Hurry up and put it on. It's a lot more comfortable. Finally, I'm not afraid to walk barefoot in the hot sand. With so many skeletons, Ren knows why it is called Despair Sand Sea. I am afraid that only a handful of exiled prisoners can escape alive. He even suspected that the corpses were deliberately dropped by the guards, so they were all nearby. No matter what, Ren had to leave the Sea of Despair. In my last life, I died suddenly at a young age. I finally got the chance to be reborn, and when I came to another world, I got a system. It must not be in vain. He wants to live well in this different world and understand everything here. Although the Sand Sea of Despair is terrifying, as long as you make good use of the Sandbox game system, you will definitely be able to escape and reach a place suitable for survival. It stands to reason that at the beginning of a Sandbox game, basic tools should be made to facilitate the collection of materials to help survive. But at a glance in the desert, nothing but sand is still sand. As for those big stones, they are actually formed by weathering sand and cannot make basic tools. So all Ren can do is go east and cross the desert as quickly as possible. He hoped to get out of the yellow sand before he died of thirst, starvation, or exhausted his physical strength, and at least found an oasis. He didn't want to become one of the many exile skeletons. Although the virtual map does not display the area shrouded in the fog of war, it has the most basic east-west, north-south direction guidance. Ren can judge whether he has gone in the wrong direction through his movement route on the virtual map. I walked all the way to the east. At noon, the sun was more poisonous and the temperature was even higher. Even wearing linen shoes can feel the heat of the sand. In this case, he really wanted to dig a hole down like in the game and hide from the heat underground. But without tools, you can't do it with your bare hands. What's more, the sand is so hot that it's like being fried in an iron pan, so I don't dare to touch it. There was no other way but to continue walking eastward despite the scorching heat, hoping to find a relatively shady place to hide from the sun and rest for the time being. Thinking about it this way, after walking for several hours, apart from the yellow sand or the yellow sand, how can there be a place to rest? Sure enough, it is the birthplace of the level. It is really terrible. After walking for a day, Ren was hungry, thirsty, and exhausted. He felt sunburned on his face, and suspected that he was about to be cooked. Finally, I found that there was a gobi in front of me. Although there were only hills, at least there was a place to hide from the sun to rest temporarily. Hiding in the shade, although the ground is still hot, the air is still hot, at least not exposed to direct sunlight. Ren felt a little heat stroke and didn't want to move at all. My stomach is empty, I haven't eaten for a whole day, I'm so hungry. In such an environment, his lips were already chapped because he hadn't drank water for a long time. Suddenly, I wanted to travel through my crowded nest. Even if I was tired of eating instant noodles, the aftertaste was still delicious. The only thing I can do now is to stay in the shadows to avoid the sun and recover some physical strength. Looking up at the sky, he fantasized about a plane appearing from time to time, landing nearby and taking him home. After finally waiting for the sun to set, Ren struggled to get up, dragged his tired pace and continued to walk eastward along the gobi, trying to find a suitable place to spend the night before dark. This gobi is extremely desolate, and there are no plants to be seen. The whole scene can only be described as despair. After searching, I finally found a cave that I could barely hide in. After a little cleaning, it was used as a place to sleep at night. Before dark, I searched the neighborhood, but I still didn't find any plants and animals, not even insects. Apart from sand, there are no other resources here. At night, Ren, who had not eaten a single drop of water and ate a grain of rice, felt the maliciousness of the despairing sand sea. The environment that was scalding like a stove during the day turned into a refrigerator at the moment, making him shiver. Fortunately, many prisoners' clothes were found at the exile site, and they were all wrapped around their bodies to barely resist the cold, and they managed to survive until the next day. Under such a terrifying environment, Ren worked hard to go east for 4 days, and he didn't know how to persevere. System: you have entered the sandworm territory. Finally entering the new area, Ren opened the virtual map and found that there were some scattered plant markers on the map, which were very rare. Seeing plants means seeing hope. Maybe you can find food and water, as well as materials for making tools. She quickly moved towards the nearest plant marker, and after walking for more than 2 hours, she finally saw the scattered thorn plants and cacti in the desert. Under the ecstasy, the exhausted Ren did not know where the strength came from, and ran to the numbers that looked rather dry. There are some dry wood and branches on the ground, which are extremely precious resources in the desert. Ren picked them all up and put them in the virtual backpack. Wood can be used as the most basic wooden tools, such as wooden axes, wooden picks, wooden hoes, wooden shovels, etc. Although the durability is very low and it is easy to damage, it allows him to collect all kinds of necessary materials. Branches can create various props. There are not many resources here, so Ren decided to take them all. First, through the system manufacturing interface, select the wooden axe, and consume wood to make a simple felling tool. Although it doesn't look very good, it is possible to cut down trees. Use the wooden axe to decisively cut down the thorny plants next to it, and get 3 logs, a lot of branches and a few sea buckthorn seeds. Turns out these are sea buckthorn trees. Unfortunately, there is no sea buckthorn fruit. Turn the target to the cactus. After cutting it, you will get some cactus meat and a lot of cactus thorns. Looking at the props in the virtual backpack, the cactus meat is actually food and can be eaten. This is good news for Ren. He has been hungry for 4 days. As long as he can eat, he can put anything in his mouth. He quickly took out a piece of cactus meat and put it in his mouth, took a bite and found it was bitter and astringent. The only good thing is that the system automatically separates the cactus thorns from the cactus flesh, so you don't have to worry about hurting yourself when you eat it. Although it was unpalatable, it was food that he had finally found for so many days. Ren had no choice but to swallow it to replenish energy for himself. With these resources, he regained some confidence. After getting ready to eat, continue on the road and try to get out of the desert. Now that there is wood, a wooden shovel can be made. Whether it is to avoid the hot noon or the cold night, you can dig directly into the ground, be a burrower, and rest in a more comfortable environment. While thinking about it in my heart, I felt the ground suddenly tremble. He got up in doubt, looked around, and found that it was not an illusion, and the sand under his feet trembled. Earthquake. Ren was puzzled. Is there an earthquake in the desert? Never heard of it. When he was in doubt, the sand was sprayed upwards at a distance of 20 meters in front, and a large hole with a diameter of more than 10 meters appeared on the ground. A worm with a large mouth and numerous sharp teeth was drilled from the ground. This worm is so huge that it can easily swallow an elephant with its mouth open, not to mention Ren. Sandworm, the terrifying predator of the despairing sand sea. Are the bugs in another world so big? Ren had goosebumps all over his body, and quickly turned around and ran as fast as he could. He didn't want to be the food for this giant bug. Roar! The giant sandworm opened its mouth, let out a terrifying cry, and attacked Ren's location. Ren turned in horror, running desperately to avoid the sandworm's attack, without turning his head. He knew that whenever he hesitated, he would be directly swallowed by this terrifying creature. It's really a start, even if it is thrown into the sand sea of despair, there is such a terrifying creature. The giant sandworm failed to bite, and it went straight into the sand and disappeared quickly. At the same time, the ground shook again, becoming more intense. Ren could clearly feel the shock spreading to him, and Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com had no choice but to escape. Roar! After escaping a distance, the giant sandworm broke out of the ground again and bit again. Ren exploded all his energy in a desperate situation, and avoided the attack again with a very thrilling posture. He could no longer care about the direction of escape, and just wanted to avoid this terrifying monster. In this way, people kept running for their lives in the S-shaped route in front, and the giant sandworms were chasing after them. When Ren was exhausted, he felt that he was about to be unable to support himself, and the terrifying sandworm behind him drilled into the ground again, as if there was no movement. The ground no longer vibrated. But he didn't dare to stop. Even though his legs were as heavy as lead, he continued to jog forward, lest if he stopped, that terrifying monster would appear. He didn't know how long he ran or where to stop. Fear forced him to stay away from the sandworm. Until a beeping sound came from his ear. System, you have entered the desert wolf's nest. Finally left the sandworm territory? Before Ren could relax, a wolf howl suddenly sounded in his ears. Ouch! The voice said whether it was close or not, and said it was not far. Looking at the sound, there was indeed more than one wild wolf in the sand in the distance. It is estimated that the wind direction is a problem. They seem to smell the smell of Ren, and the wolf howls one after another, running towards this side. Just came out of the worm's den and entered the wolf's den again? Ren only felt his scalp tingling. He no longer had the strength to continue to escape, nor did he feel that he could face a dozen desert wolves hidden. Fortunately, the wolves are far enough away from me that the only thing I can think of is to dig a hole. There should be no sandworms here, right? Quickly make a wooden shovel and start digging down like a staircase. The hole is blocked with a wooden door made of wood. When I dug down like a staircase, I found that the sand was the same as in the game, it would fall down without support. So it is useless to dig a hole diagonally. Originally, I thought that the sand under my feet was so dense, it shouldn't be like in the game. There is no other way but to dig down vertically. At least the surrounding sand will not be squeezed in the middle. When he uses a tool to dig out a sand block, the side will also become a sandbox. As for the top hole, the sand will definitely slide down and hit yourself, so I used wood to make a simple wooden hatch again. He dug down about 20 squares, and when he was no longer a sand block, but hard sandstone, Ren finally stopped digging and looked up at the hole that was quite far away, hoping that the sand wolves could not find him. The wolf howls got closer and closer. Just near the entrance of the cave, they could clearly hear their footsteps, and even the movement of their claws scratching the door. Ren was very nervous, holding his breath and not daring to make any sound. It's not that he is cowardly. If there are abundant resources and enough materials for weapons and equipment, traps can be set up. In fact, it is also possible to fight these beasts hidden. The problem is, now that I have nothing, there is really no way to rely on this material. Sandwolf hovered above his head for a long time, and finally left after 3 hours. When the wolf howls and footsteps got farther and farther, Ren didn't dare to go out directly, and still hid in the cave and waited quietly. Sure enough, half an hour later, there was the sound of sandwolves wandering above, and they didn't give up. So I decided to stay underground for a while until it was safe. There is cactus meat to eat, which can relieve hunger and thirst a little. Anyway, people are tired, so they simply take the opportunity to rest and refresh their spirits. Sandwolf lingered at the location where Ren was digging the hole until midnight. There was really no way to do it, so he finally left. Ren slept underground until dawn, feeling very quiet above, so he used the sand cubes stored in the virtual backpack to step his feet, kept jumping back to the vicinity of the hole, carefully opened the wooden hatch whose durability had been reduced by half, and looked around with a probe. To be on the safe side, I also opened the virtual map to check if there were any hostile red dots around. Having experienced the threat of sandworms and sandwolves, he became more cautious, knowing that this is not a game, and he will lose his life if he is not careful. The wolves really left, at least not nearby. Confirming through the virtual map, he has already opened 3 areas, namely the Despair Sand Sea, the Sandworm Territory and the Desert Wolf Nest. The Sandworm Territory is in the east of the Despair Sand Sea, and the Desert Wolf's Nest is in the north of the Despair Sand Sea. I happened to be at the junction of the 3 areas. I was chased by the sandworm yesterday and accidentally ran over. If you want to leave the desert, you must follow the system instructions to go east. But he doesn't want to enter the sandworm territory again. It's too scary there, and the terrifying giant sandworm may burrow out of the ground at any time. You can't stay in the wolf's den in the desert either. If the wolves come again, you won't be able to leave by yourself. You can only go east from the Desert Wolf's Nest area to the dark area in the north of the Sandworm territory, and pray that it will be safer here. Come out of the cave, retrieve the wooden hatch, and run away before the Sandwolf appears. All the way to the east, after walking for almost 2 hours, I finally entered a new area. System, you have entered the Source of Thorns. A few sea buckthorn trees can be seen in the distance, which are slightly greener than the current location. Ren quickened his pace, and the further he walked, the more sea buckthorn trees he found. I even saw animals running in the bushes in the distance. Rabbits, lizards, gerbils, elephants, and some unknown birds. The gathering of so many animals means that there must be water sources near the sea buckthorn forest, which may be a desert oasis. Of course, in addition to these animals that can be seen, there may be other dangerous predators nearby, such as the desert wolves seen before. Another piece of good news, the terrain of the sea buckthorn forest is slightly different from the Sea of Despair Sand, although it is still rare, you can find real stones here. If you have stones, you can make stone knives. With stone knives, you can make basic self-defense weapons such as stone spears and stone arrows, as well as other basic props. Ren picked up all the stones he saw on the road and stored them in his virtual backpack. 2 stones can be used to make stone knives for cutting things, or stone axe parts for felling, stone pickaxe parts for mining, stone shovel parts for digging, stone parts for farming, etc. Plus branches and ropes can make stone axe, stone pickaxe, stone shovel and stone hoe. Of course, only one component can be used, but it is less efficient. Ren first took out 2 stones and made a stone knife. In fact, 2 stones are knocked into the most basic stone tools. Ren has a system manufacturing function, and does not need to master the real stone tool manufacturing technology. As long as the production progress bar is full, it can be completed automatically. After making a stone knife, take out a long branch from the virtual backpack, process it with the stone knife, and make it into a wooden spear to get the most basic self-defense weapon. Then take out another long branch, use 5 pieces of linen cloth to twist into a linen rope, and directly synthesize a simple wooden bow. Then use stone knives and twigs to make some basic wooden arrows. The long-range and melee weapons are all available, and they may not be able to fight beasts, and they also have some resistance. It can also hunt small animals. Read www.yuyuganshu.com to get food. Hanging the wooden bow on his body, Ren entered the sea buckthorn forest with a wooden spear in his hand. He paid attention to the surrounding environment, and while guarding against predators, he cut down with a wooden axe to obtain more wood, branches, and sea buckthorn seeds. Luckily, I got a lot of sea buckthorn fruits on the way of felling, which can be eaten directly. The sea buckthorn fruits were too sour, so Ren had a taste for them, and considered them as seasonings. Gather some materials a little, wait until the wooden axe is damaged, then continue to look for the water source. Following the movement of most animals, it is not difficult to find water sources. In this hot desert area, animals also need to drink water constantly. After a long journey, under the guidance of the animals, Ren finally found a waterhole near the sea buckthorn forest. The pool is not very big, and the water inside is very turbid, but it is where all the animals gather. In a higher position, Ren looked down and observed, and found that in addition to a large number of herbivores, there were lions, wolves, and wild dogs near the water pool. The most terrifying thing was that there were two at least 5 meters long in the water pool. The giant crocodile swims back and forth. Good guy. This desert oasis is also extremely dangerous, too terrifying. Nonetheless, Ren had to go to fetch water. He needs to take in water, and cactus meat alone can't meet his needs. If he doesn't want to die of thirst, he has to drink enough water. He needs to get water in front of these animals. But don't be reckless, you must pay attention to the dynamics of the lions, wolves, and wild dogs, keep away from them, and do not enter their hunting range. You also have to be careful about the two huge crocodiles, they can easily swallow themselves with their big mouths. Most importantly, make temporary settlements nearby before dark. This is all sandstone terrain, so digging the basement is not a problem. Through observation, Ren selected a sea buckthorn forest 100 meters southwest of the pool. This location seems relatively safe and suitable for building temporary residences. In order to get out of the desert, he must stay in the water pool to replenish food and water, try his best to restore his body to the best condition, and bring enough supplies. For safety's sake, drive the virtual map all the way, always pay attention to the hostile red dots that appear nearby, and avoid dangerous animals that may approach you. Careful all the way, he quietly came to the selected location, built a few wooden pickaxes and wooden shovels and started digging holes on the spot. Although it is a sandstone terrain, there are also sand blocks in it. After all, it is a desert, but most of it is sandstone, and it is feasible to excavate with a stepped slope. Make a wooden hatch to block the entrance, dig underground safely, and create a long and narrow basement step. I dug to a depth that was almost unaffected by the outside temperature, not as hot as a stove, and even a little cool. Only then did the basement expand from front to back, left and right. At first it was 3 times 3, then 5 times 5, 7 times 7, 9 times 9. Finally, the digging reached 15 times 15, and the wooden picks and shovels in hand were all used up. When he came back to his senses, he glanced at the rather wide basement. He originally planned to dig a small underground room, as long as he could rest, but once he digged it, he had a problem. If it weren't for the weak tools, he could still continue to dig. There are a lot of sandstone and sand blocks in the virtual backpack, which can be used as buildings or as materials to make items. Sandstone is sand when crushed, and sand can be fired into glass. Of course, glass cannot be made without a furnace. The basement has been dug, and the accommodation problem has been solved. The next task is to obtain food and water. The food has sea buckthorn fruit, but it is very sour, and it is impossible to rely on it to solve the problem. Ren has to hunt and catch animals that come to drink water, or catch fish, frogs, turtles, and even snakes in the pool to feed himself. The problem is that there are 2 big crocodiles in the water, so he can't go into the water to hunt, no fishing rod either. You can only give up the prey in the water, and use the bow and arrow to capture the land animals that come to drink the water. As for the problem of drinking water, the pool was not clean. Except for the surface layer, the bottom was almost all muddy. There are so many animals drinking water here, there must be a lot of bacteria in it, and it must be boiled. Campfires are easy to build, and to boil water, you need a container for water. Ren had to dig a small amount of clay near the water hole first, and make them into clay containers to carry and boil. It should be noted that those dangerous animals will patrol and hunt, and it is not safe here. Must be fully prepared. Since it is the same as in the game, you can use block jumping to step foot, and it is also possible to deal with beasts in this way. Ren put the sandstone blocks in the virtual backpack into the shortcut bar, so that they can be switched at any time. The weapons, tools, and other props on the shortcut bar will appear in his hands when he wants to use them. In this way, when it is too late to escape back to the basement, you can jump up and place blocks on the spot, so that you can stand high enough to avoid their attacks. When animals refuse to leave, they can attack them with spears or bows and arrows to gain an advantage. Counting the backpack, there are currently 27 logs, 16 logs, 30 long branches and 46 small branches. Logs can be chopped into more wood with an axe tool, and wood is an essential material for making most props. Long branches can be cut into wooden spears with knives, but in this case, cutting them into small branches to make wooden arrows is more helpful. A long branch can be cut into 3 small branches, and a small branch can be used as a wooden arrow. That is to say, Ren can make more than 100 wooden arrows, and he is not afraid of insufficient arrows when he encounters danger. Anyway, there is a sea buckthorn forest nearby, and more branches can be collected at any time. Of course, there are not many stones, and stone knives are durable and cannot be used up at one time. First, make all the existing 46 small branches into the simplest wooden arrows, which can cope with most situations, but it is impossible to cut long branches. With a stone knife, you can also peel and cut meat to create other props. It took a while to finally make 46 wooden arrows. When you are ready, come out of the basement, open the virtual map all the way, make sure there are no hostile red dots outside, open the hatch and head towards the waterhole. When he came to a position less than 50 meters away from the water pool, a red dot suddenly appeared nearby, about 10 meters away, which startled Ren. Looking at the virtual map carefully, there are 4 words Desert Viper above the red dot. According to the position of the red dot on the map, it is the only way to the waterhole, below a sea buckthorn tree. It is estimated that he came out of the nest to prepare for hunting, and it is only displayed when the system detects it. It was impossible for Ren to retreat. In order to fetch water, he had to go to a waterhole to get clay. As for the poisonous snake, just avoid it. So holding the wooden spear, try to stay away from where the desert viper is, trying to make a small circle. Unexpectedly, the desert viper moved straight in the direction of Ren, and soon came to him. It stands to reason that it shouldn't. Under normal circumstances, as long as you avoid them, snakes seldom actively pursue them. Perhaps this is also a change brought about by the system? Because Ren gets the characteristics of the game, will he be attacked when he enters the range of hostile creatures? Seeing the desert viper moving towards him, Ren took a deep breath, raised his spear and said softly, "If you don't come, we won't make the river water. If you want to come, you will die." He is still a little afraid of poisonous snakes. After all, there is not enough supplies in the desert area. Once bitten by a poisonous snake, he can only wait to die. There is neither detoxification grass nor poisonous snake serum here, which is related to his own life. It's a pity that the desert viper was not going to let him go, so it came head on. Ren knew that he couldn't escape, so he could only hold on to the spear and stared at the desert viper. Although he was afraid, he had tactics in his heart. After all, he had a spear in his hand. As long as he held it down before the desert viper attacked, there would be a way to win. The desert viper got closer and closer, its head erect, ready to attack. Ren stared at each other, holding up the spear in his hand. When the desert viper suddenly attacked, his spear fell directly, just pressing its head. The desert viper quickly wrapped the spear around its body, trying to pull its head out. Ren pressed the spear down with all his strength, and even put it on the ground and stepped on it. He switched to the hard sandstone in his hand, and smashed it at the suppressed snake head. Crack! The sandstone block landed exactly on the snake's head and was directly fixed to the ground. The desert viper's head was directly crushed, and its body twitched a few times before moving. System: you kill the desert viper and gain 5 experience points. Seeing that the red dot on the virtual map disappeared and a system prompt sounded in his ear, Ren felt relieved. It turns out that blocks can still be used like this. That being the case, when you are surrounded by wild beasts at a high place, you can use the block to fall to kill the enemy, even saving the bow and arrow? After killing the desert viper, Ren took out the stone knife and went forward to peel it. System, you get snake skin. System, you get snake meat. System, you get poison glands. Snake skin is a good material and can make some props. Snake meat is food, which can be grilled or cooked. Because of the game settings played by Ren, food will not rot in the backpack, which is equivalent to permanent preservation. If you want fertilizer, you need to build a fertilizer box, and throw unwanted food and plant fibers into it to automatically generate. So don't worry about being in the desert, everything is fresh in the backpack. Although snake meat is rare, it is also a rare food for Ren. Poison glands are dangerous props for making poison arrows and coating weapons with poison. They can be used to deal with large animals or dangerous enemies. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to kill an elephant with a bow and arrow. Before you shoot it, you may be killed by it first. But the use of poison arrows can poison the elephant to death. Of course, Ren had no intention of provoking elephants. Those elephants all appear in groups, and one is very scary. A large group can easily kill themselves, there is no need to kill them. It's better to keep it to deal with the hostile creatures. If you enter the red dot area, you will be attacked. You may be attacked by crocodiles when you take clay and water. They are no less dangerous than elephants. Poison arrows should be used in this place. If you can kill the crocodile, you will not only get a lot of food, but you can also get water with confidence. One poison gland can make 5 poison arrows, which is enough. He applied poison to the wooden arrow on the spot, and put it in his virtual backpack anyway, so he didn't have to worry about the poison getting him. The only concern is, can the meat of the animals killed by poison arrows be eaten? Continue to move towards the water pool, be more careful this time, always pay attention to the virtual map, so that no red dots will suddenly appear anywhere. Fortunately, I didn't encounter a second poisonous snake until I came to the vicinity of the water pool. Ryan made a wooden shovel and, as carefully as possible, began to dig the few clays nearby. It was fine at the beginning, and some clay was dug smoothly. He kept approaching the pool, but was discovered by the crocodiles on patrol. One of the big crocodiles closest to Ren immediately swam over and locked on the target. Through the virtual map, Ren found that the big crocodile was approaching him, so he quickly stepped back, and quickly took out the sandstone block and placed it by jumping. A total of 4 blocks were placed, and each block was a standard 1 meter in length, width, and height, which was exactly 4 meters high. Looking down from above, he clearly saw the big crocodile rushing out of the pool and under the temporary sandstone pillar. There is no way, in this case, we have to fight. Ren took out a sandstone block, observed the movement route of the big crocodile below, and calculated the time to drop the block in front of it. The falling sandstone block just hit the crocodile's mouth, squashing it directly. The crocodile, whose long mouth was crushed, rolled over and struggled, and quickly stopped. System, you kill the big crocodile and get 50 experience points. Is the judgment of this system block too strong? After falling, it will automatically connect to the ground, and the animal that is pressed is almost killed in seconds. With these blocks, what weapons do you need? Ren's eyes lit up, and the falling power of the cube made him find a new way of fighting. The roar of the big crocodile here caught the attention of another crocodile in the pool, and it quickly swam here, heading towards the area where its companions were. Ren took out another sandstone block, ready to repeat the old trick. Unexpectedly, the big crocodile came to the vicinity of the stone pillar and saw the tragic state of his companion. He did not step forward immediately, but stopped and circled around the periphery vigilantly. Ren held up the sandstone block and shouted at it from a height, "Come on! Come here!" Although the crocodile didn't understand what he said, he didn't come close, he just raised his head and let out a penetrating roar. Seeing that it was unwilling to approach, and was unwilling to leave, he chose to stand there and stand in a stalemate with himself. Ren said in his heart that it was not the way to waste it. This crocodile seemed to be quite smart. Or maybe it was the death of its companion that made it vigilant. So he aimed at the opponent and threw the sandstone block in his hand. The crocodile ran quickly and avoided the sandstone block, causing it to fall to the ground. After throwing a few sandstone blocks in a row and being avoided by the crocodile, Ren realized that this method was useless to him. So I switched to a wooden bow and took a poison arrow. The speed of throwing blocks by hand is not fast, and it is normal to be avoided by the crocodile. Using a bow and arrow is different. The arrow is shot fast enough, and the distance is so close, only a few meters. Even if the chance of hitting the arrow is very high, it is almost close to the face, and the target is still this body type. The beast is a beast after all. It is afraid of sandstone blocks, but it is the first time that it sees a bow and arrow, and finds that Ren is pulling the bow and aiming at it. Ren pulled the bow hard and aimed directly at its open mouth. After all, the crocodile skin was too hard, and this was the softest target. Whoosh! The poisoned arrow was shot, although it deviates from the position that Ren was aiming at, due to the close distance, it still successfully hit the inside of the crocodile's mouth and penetrated the flesh directly. The crocodile shook his head in pain, and quickly broke the wooden arrow in his mouth and took it out, but the poisoned arrow was left inside, and the viper's venom quickly spread in its body. The poisoned crocodile began to roll continuously, and the movements were quite intense. Ren didn't dare to go down hastily, he sat above the stone pillar and waited patiently. Reading www.yuuganshu.com watched the crocodile struggle for 5 or 6 minutes, waiting for it to stop moving completely. System: you kill the big crocodile and get 50 experience points. System: you have upgraded. System: you have obtained 5 attribute points. System: you can open the personal interface to assign attributes. The experience required for the initial upgrade is not much, and the experience provided by the 2 big crocodiles is very sufficient, which directly allows Ren to upgrade to level 1. You can get 5 attribute points each time you upgrade, and assigning them to different attributes can bring different effects. Silently turned on his personal attributes, and a virtual interface appeared in front of him, with a full-length portrait of Ren's current character, and various attributes next to it. The most important attributes that can be changed are strength, agility, physical strength, intelligence, and luck. Currently Ren's attributes are 5 points in strength, 7 points in agility, 6 points in physical strength, 7 points in intelligence, and 4 points in luck. The strength value affects the basic attack power and load, which is the damage to the enemy in melee combat, and the upper limit of materials that can be stored in the backpack. Agility affects ranged weapon damage, character movement speed, and the chance of avoiding enemy attacks. Physical strength affects the upper limit of HP, the endurance value and defense of various actions of the character. Intelligence affects the upper limit of magic attack power and mana MP, and is also the basis for unlocking later stage manufacturing and construction recipes. Luck affects the chance of a character's critical strike against the enemy when attacking, as well as the chance of obtaining supplies when searching for corpses. For now, Ren's primary goal is to escape the desert, and strength, intelligence, and luck are not as important as agility and physical strength. Agility allows him to move faster, shorten the distance from the desert, and escape the pursuit of beasts. Physical strength can make him go farther and last longer. 5 attribute points assigned American Samoa: Agility 2 and Physical Strength 3. Ren's agility and stamina were increased to 9 respectively, which is already close to the limit for normal people. The limit of ordinary people is 10 points, and 2 9 points are already very strong. Adding such a point also makes Ren's bow and arrow more damage. After adding points, first look around through the virtual map to ensure that no other ferocious animals are approaching. Then make a wooden pickaxe to destroy the sandstone blocks under your feet, and return to the ground to take out the stone knife to collect the crocodile corpse. System: you get 30 raw meat. System: you get crocodile skin. System: you get 60 crocodile teeth. System: you get a crocodile bone. System you get 30 raw meat. System you get crocodile skin. System you get 76 crocodile teeth. System you get a crocodile bone. The 2 crocodiles contributed 60 raw meat, 2 crocodile skins, 2 crocodile bones and 136 crocodile teeth, which is a great harvest. The raw meat is huge, 1 piece is enough for a meal, 60 pieces are enough for Ren to eat for 20 days, and 2 crocodiles solve the food problem. After killing the crocodile, it is much safer to collect clay and water here. As long as you don't step into the territory of other predators, try your best to be careful. Initially, Ren was worried that it was not easy to obtain food, because the system was so powerful. Even the poisoned crocodiles are normal raw meat after being collected, so you don't have to worry about poisoning yourself. It is estimated that it is collected immediately, the venom has not spread yet, right? The materials collected from crocodiles can do a lot of things. Ren is not in a hurry. The current primary goal is to fetch water. After eliminating the crocodiles, it is much easier to dig up clay by the pool. Without getting close to other beasts' sites, dig up all that can be collected, and then return quickly to make pottery bowls in the temporary shelter. Use the branches picked up along the road to make a small bonfire, 2 branches, 2 pieces of wood, and a piece of rags to synthesize a drill to make a fire tool. After lighting, the pottery bowl is baked in the bonfire. A total of 5 pottery bowls are made. After cooling, they are the most basic containers, which can hold both water and food. If it weren't for too little clay, it would be better to make large pots. Don't ask too much in the desert area, just use it. With the pottery bowl, Ren went to the water pool again, filled them all back to the basement, cooked through the bonfire, selected the boiling water icon, and roasted all the raw meat in the virtual backpack by the way. After the first bowl of water, snake meat, and the first piece of roasted crocodile meat are finished, I can't wait to take them out, not in a hurry to eat them, but after taking out the sea buckthorn fruit and smashing it, smear it all on the roasted snake meat and crocodile meat, and enjoy it again. First real big meal after crossing. I don't know if it's because I'm too hungry, but the snake meat and roasted crocodile meat I tasted at one time turned out to be more fragrant than any food I had eaten before crossing the road. It's so refreshing to drink water while eating barbecue. After cooking, the water turned out to be extremely clear, without any impurities. It was hard to imagine that it was taken from such a turbid pool. It appears that the cooking function of the system is able to purify food and water. After eating and drinking, Ren added wood to the bonfire, let it continue to burn, and roasted raw meat. Then take out the crocodile skins and think about what to do with them. First of all, we need to travel long distances to cross the desert. The linen shoes I found before are seriously worn out, and I am afraid that they will not last long, so a pair of crocodile leather shoes is indispensable. Crocodile leather shoes can better insulate and help you get out of the desert. Secondly, although the food is plentiful, only 5 clay bowls can't carry too much water. Therefore, the remaining crocodile skins are all made into crocodile skin water bottles, and it is necessary to fill enough cold water. It is impossible for ordinary people to make crocodile leather shoes and crocodile leather water bottles under such conditions, but Ren can use the system to directly synthesize them. Of course, making these 2 props requires needle and thread. A part of the crocodile bone can be used to make bone needles, and the linen can be dismantled into linen threads. The production process is very simple. Take out a crocodile bone, choose to make a bone needle, and directly turn it into a sharp needle in your hand. Linen is also directly converted into linen thread. With these 2 props, I took the crocodile skin and chose to make crocodile leather shoes and a crocodile leather water bottle. I quickly got a pair of high-top crocodile leather boots that looked pretty good, and 5 quite large crocodile leather water bottles. Wearing crocodile leather shoes feels quite comfortable, completely wrapping your feet, and can even resist attacks from poisonous snakes and poisonous insects. Before it was dark, Ren brought the freshly made crocodile skin water bottle, and Ren came to the pool again and filled them all up. After I came back, I found a problem, because it couldn't be boiled directly in the crocodile skin kettle, and the 5 pottery bowls couldn't even take half a pot of water, and the turbid raw water couldn't be drunk directly. After thinking about it, I decided to test whether I could build a pool with blocks directly like in the game, and pour the water into it for storage. Go ahead and do what you say. Anyway, there are a lot of sandstone cubes. In the city, there is a small 3x3 square pool surrounded by a wall. Take out a crocodile skin water bottle and pour it into it. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. The water did not seep down and remained in the pool. After pouring it out, I recovered the crocodile skin water bottle without losing a drop. Yes! Ren clenched his fists excitedly, celebrating excitedly. Then, pour all the water brought back from the 5 crocodile skin kettles into the pool, and then put the pottery bowls and put them on the bonfire to boil. After success, transfer them from the pottery bowls to the kettles. Just go back and forth like this, until all the raw meat is roasted, and the crocodile skin kettle has been filled with drinking water. It was already night, and the temperature outside dropped sharply. The basement is not affected, there is a bonfire, and it is even quite warm. With such a simple solution to the problem of food and water, Ren is fortunate that he knows enough about the game functions. The next step is to restore yourself to the best state through enough rest, and then set off. He was exhausted by the high-intensity work all day, especially if he had enough food and drink. He would be very sleepy in a warm and comfortable environment. Lying near the bonfire, I fell asleep quickly, the first time I had a peaceful sleep since I crossed, and the day dawned as soon as I dreamed. I woke up in the morning refreshed and checked my personal attributes. It would take 2 days for the head wound to heal completely. So in these 2 days, he will continue to stay and cultivate. After all, the wound on the head has a great impact. When driving on the road, you will often feel dizzy, which is quite dangerous. If you have conditions, you still need to recover before driving. Another is that it is rare to find such an oasis. Although there are not many resources, it is always right to bring some more while training. After all, I don't know where the next oasis will be, and I don't know when I will leave the desert. It's dark everywhere. The original owner of the body has no information about the despairing sand sea, and he is not willing to take risks without complete preparation. On a quiet morning, the pool is full of animals, trying to get hydrated. Boom! The sound of falling trees in the distance made them look up and be alert, although this movement has been heard countless times. When the sound disappeared, they continued to drink with their heads down. On the other side, Ren was holding a wooden axe and put the fallen logs, long branches, twigs, and sea buckthorn fruits into the virtual backpack. The virtual backpack has been filled with resources. A total of 65 sea buckthorn trees were cut down, and nearly 200 logs, more than 500 long branches, more than 800 small branches, and more than 300 sea buckthorn fruits were obtained. Originally, there were sea buckthorn trees near the temporary residence, but now it is empty. If it wasn't for the virtual backpack's resource storage reaching 90%, Ren would not stop cutting easily. Anyway, the wooden axe can be used indefinitely, and there is no shortage of wood. The remaining 10% of the space should be reserved for other materials. The capacity of the basic backpack is actually quite large. A normal player will not collect enough logs to build several cabins in one go. He is used to it. The logs in this backpack are enough for him to make countless wooden tools and build a number of temporary cabins on the way out of the desert, although he still prefers to dig holes in the ground. The long branches and twigs allow him to make wooden spears and wooden arrows indefinitely. Even if he hasn't left the desert for a month, more than 300 sea buckthorn fruits are enough for him to persist for a long time. There are enough materials to make a campfire for heating and cooking on the road, and the next thing to consider is more food and water. He wants to hunt animals near the waterhole for their meat and fur. While getting food, hides can be crafted into more kettles. By the way, by hunting animals to upgrade, slightly increase the strength, increase the upper limit of the backpack, and make yourself carry more resources. Take as much food as possible from this oasis until the head wound fully heals. There are more than 100 sea buckthorn seeds in the backpack. Go back to the entrance of the cave and look around. It is too empty and there is no concealment. If a dangerous animal approaches, you will find yourself instantly. Although these more than 100 sea buckthorn seeds only occupy one grid, it is good to be able to spare them. Simply plant them near the burrow and surround them directly. Do what you think of, immediately plant all the sea buckthorn seeds in the backpack very regularly around the hole, forming a standard huge circle. There is a 1 meter wide path from the exit of the cave to the water pool. There is enough space between each tree species, so that they can be adjacent to each other when they grow large enough to form a natural barrier. Obsessive-compulsive disorder patients will feel particularly comfortable seeing this layout, because the front and rear are symmetrical. After planting, each small soil bag shows a need for watering. Ren used the clean water stored in the crocodile skin kettle for watering. Although he could directly take out the turbid water from the pool, he didn't have any extra containers. Anyway, after running out, he could fetch water and cook again, which was not troublesome. After all the watering, sea buckthorn seedlings emerged from more than 100 small soil bags. As long as Ren's eyes fell on these seedlings, he could see their growth time. It only takes 24 hours for a seedling to grow into a sea buckthorn tree, because all the plants that Ren planted are calculated according to game time, not reality. In reality, it takes at least 3 to 5 years for a sea buckthorn tree to grow and bear fruit. Moreover, these sea buckthorn seedlings can be fertilized to reduce the time required for growth. However, in a desert where resources are scarce, even if Ren has enough materials to make a fertilizer box, he will not waste precious food and time to make fertilizer. 24 hours is already fast. It doesn't mean that the seedlings turned into big trees during this period of time. In fact, the saplings can grow very high within a few hours and play a certain protective role. Ren was not in a hurry to hunt. Before setting off, he practiced archery in the nearby open space. He placed a log vertically in the open space as an arrow target, and drew the bow and arrow at a distance, shooting again and again. After all, I had never played bow and arrow before, so I was very unfamiliar with it. It was good luck to shoot the crocodile in front, and it was almost close to the face, so it almost missed. He had to be familiar with the wooden bow in his hand and the arc of the wooden arrow to make sure that he was accurate enough when shooting the arrow. After practicing for nearly an hour, it is difficult for the arrows shot at the beginning to hit the log. When you are familiar with the feel of the wooden bow and have a sufficient understanding of the flight path of the wooden arrow, the probability of hitting the log will increase. Almost 10 arrows can hit 6 arrows. I think it's almost the same. Next, you can continue to practice during the hunting process to improve the accuracy. So he set off with a wooden spear and bow and arrow, and quietly arrived near the water pool. After the 2 big crocodiles in the water pool were killed, the animals were not threatened, and the number of people who came to drink water surged. No matter their size, it was extraordinarily lively. Ren tried to be careful as he approached the pool slowly. He observed the nearest group of rabbits. He felt that it was still a little far away, and tried to move forward. Who would have guessed that the group of rabbits by the pool would run away when they heard the movement, and soon disappeared? It seems that these animals are very vigilant and extremely difficult to approach. He tried to get close to gerbils and a bird called blue-feathered bird, but also ran away before he could get into range. This made Ren feel a headache. The basic wooden bow has a limited range, and the accuracy and power of exceeding the distance will be reduced, and the probability of successful hunting will decrease. Animals are so alert, you reading www.youcanshu.com doesn't let himself into the range of the wooden bow at all, which is quite troublesome. Glancing at the animals that all ran across the pool, he could only crouch on the spot and think carefully. After much deliberation, there is only one way. Create a bunker, hide in it so that animals can't see themselves, and when they get close to the bunker, they can sneak attack from it. Creating a bunker is very simple. At a higher point near the water pool, use sandstone to directly enclose a 3x3 matchbox, facing the water pool, and place one less block in the middle as a window and a shooting port. The 1 sandstone was enough for Ren to hide himself. Put more sea buckthorn branches around the bunker to increase concealment. After the completion, Ren sat in the bunker and tried not to make any noise or even observe with a probe. Even if you are lying in the bunker, you can confirm with the green animal icon on the virtual map and control their movement range at any time. Hunting requires patience. Anyway, the bunker can block the sun's exposure to Ren, and there is enough water, so there is no need to worry. After lying down for about 40 minutes, finally an animal came to the vicinity, vigilantly approaching the water source. The bunker is not far from the water source, and the wind direction is good, so the animals won't smell him. Quietly squatting down to probe, he saw a group of rabbits drinking water. The distance was even closer, and Ren was very sure. He quickly drew his bow and arrow, and aimed quietly from the window. Hey! The arrow shot swiftly, instantly piercing a rabbit, killing him on the spot. The other rabbits were frightened and fled, and soon disappeared. System: if you kill a rabbit, you will get 10 experience points. Yes. Ren immediately opened the door and rushed out of the bunker, took out the stone knife and collected the rabbit corpse on the spot. What Ren lacks most is patience. Although he waited for animals for a long time, he still hunted 3 rabbits, 2 gerbils, and 1 blue feather bird. Rabbits and gerbils contributed a small amount of raw meat and fur, and blue-feathered birds contributed bird meat and blue feathers. The skins of 5 small animals are enough to make 2 new water jugs. Although it is much smaller than the crocodile skin water jug, it can store a lot of water. Feathers can make better feather arrows, with a more stable flight trajectory and a longer range. Unknowingly, after 5 hours of hunting, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ren decided to fight for another 2 hours, and then return to the basement with some turbid water to rest. Continue to wait quietly. Although many animals have been shot, they still return here when they need water. When the rabbits drank water again, Ren quietly drew his bow and aimed at one of them. Hey! With such a close distance, it's hard to miss. The rabbit was hunted again, and the bunker battle went so well. Ren hurried out to collect rabbit carcasses. During the collection, it may be that the fleeing rabbits attracted wild dogs in the distance, and there were a lot of red dots moving here. The hare ran very fast, and the wild dogs were not slow, and quickly entered this area. This situation was unexpected, and Ren didn't have time to return to the burrow, so he entered the bunker as soon as possible, trying to hide and avoid a heat-in conflict with the wild dogs. I just hope that the stray dogs will catch the rabbit and return to their own area. However, it backfired. When a wild dog came to the bunker while chasing the rabbit, he smelled Ren's scent. The dog's nose is so smart that it can be found even when hiding in a bunker. With a howl, all the wild dogs who got the signal ran over and surrounded the bunker tightly. They found Ren, who was hiding inside the bunker, a relatively fast rabbit. They probably thought that this prey was easier to catch, and began to scratch the door, and tried to enter from the window. Unexpectedly, he would be surrounded by wild dogs. Ren used the virtual map to confirm the number. There were 10 in total. The wooden door is fine, it won't be broken for a while, and it can be repaired with a wooden hammer. Anyway, it is very easy to make a wooden hammer. The windows are more troublesome. Although they are only 1 grid height, the wild dogs can get in completely. Although they attacked with wooden spears and barely blocked the wild dogs trying to enter, this is not the way to go. They keep jumping towards the window, and once they get in, they are finished. So decisively use sandstone blocks, place them at the same time as the wooden spears force the wild dogs back, completely block the windows, and keep them out. The bunker window was blocked, and the wild dogs could not enter, so they turned to the wooden door. Ren hurriedly made a wooden hammer and carefully watched the durability of the wooden door. When the wild dog scratched the door to a certain extent, he immediately repaired it and made it look brand new. After a stalemate like this for more than half an hour, I found that there was no way. The wild dogs were unwilling to leave at all. Under the high tension, the injured head ached. Faced with this situation, Ren had no choice but to fight back and forcibly repel the pack of wild dogs. Of course, he couldn't open the door and go out, that would be equivalent to death. Open the crafting interface, find a wooden window, and make one on the spot. Said it was a window, but it was actually a frame made of a few wooden sticks, with an empty space in the middle. To make a wooden window, use a wooden pickaxe to knock out a sandstone block and place it quickly. In this way, the wild dogs could not break in through the windows, but he could attack them with a wooden spear from the inside. Sure enough, seeing Ren inside through the wooden window, the wild dogs immediately gathered and started scratching the window. Ren raised a wooden spear and stabbed the dog's head squeezed here through the window. Ow! The stabbed wild dog let out a shrill cry, and immediately turned around and ran away, and the other wild dogs took its place. Through the wooden window, the wild dogs became targets and were unilaterally attacked by Ren from the inside. Ren specializes in poking wild dogs in the eyeballs, or when they open their mouths and try to gnaw at the windows, the point of the spear goes to the throat. Injured wild dogs would whine and flee to a distance, but soon return here. There are also unlucky ones who were directly pierced by Ren's throat and died. It stands to reason that most wild dogs are injured and should be afraid and run away. I don't know why. Obviously several companions were killed by Ren, and the others were slightly injured. The wild dogs did not choose to escape, but returned to the shelter again and again. It seems that the more dead companions, the more violent the attack. In desperation, Ren had no choice but to fight them desperately, constantly fighting under cover. After more than 2 hours of fierce fighting, the last wild dog was stabbed to death by him, and the red dot on the map disappeared. 10 wild dogs, each with 30 experience points, even allowed him to upgrade 2 levels in a row. If it weren't for the system, Ren would not have survived when he encountered such a ferocious pack of wild dogs. It is estimated that it is also because of the system, so any hostile target is dead, right? Maybe when they encounter ordinary people, they will have different behavior patterns than when they encounter themselves. In any case, the crisis is over. After collecting the corpses of 10 wild dogs, I am afraid that the backpack will not be enough. Therefore, of the 10 attribute points obtained from 2 levels Indiana a row, 5 of them are all added to strength, and the other 5 are allocated with 3 points of agility and 2 points of physical strength. In this way, Ren's power becomes 10 points. UU reading www.uuganshu.com reaches the limit of a normal person, and 5 attributes increase the upper limit of his backpack, which can store more resources. The agility has become 12 points, and the physical strength has become 11 points, which has exceeded the normal human limit. Whether running or fighting, the reaction speed has become extremely fast, and the stamina and defense power are stronger. This is only level 3. It is hard to imagine how strong his own attributes are when he reaches the full level. At that time, it is estimated that he will be a non-human being, and he can become a superhuman just by adding some attributes. Collect wild dog carcasses, and get a lot of raw meat, fur, and animal bones. Made more kettles on the spot, filled them with turbid water, and returned with a full reward. Returning to the cave, the sea buckthorn saplings around it had grown to a height of more than 2 meters in half a day, protecting the entrance of the cave. This growth rate is simply terrifying. Go back to the basement, start cooking raw meat, and boil water. At the same time, think about what happened today. Through the battle with the pack of wild dogs, Ren had a new idea. Since those hostile creatures are immortal, can they use this feature to create bunkers to destroy them all? Doing this can not only remove the threat of animals on the oasis side, but also gain a lot of experience points, food, and materials without worrying about their existence. As for whether it will affect the ecological environment on the oasis side, I can't control that much. Anyway, how can it be beneficial? Rest well tonight. Tomorrow's task is to lure lions, wolves, and other dangerous creatures near the pool, and try to catch them all in one go. If you have time, hunt other animals to make sure you have more food when you go. As for the lure method, you can build bunkers outside their range and place meat blocks as bait. Just smell the meat and those carnivores will gather. Another comfortable night. The wound on Ren's head is about to heal, and he can set off in another day. Today's task is to hunt more animals. Before departure, clean up the virtual backpack a little. Free up some logs and branches to put at home, so as not to have enough space to bring back more raw meat and fur. Anyway, after gaining experience and leveling up, you can add more strength and increase the weight. It is good to increase the strength attribute. While increasing the load, the damage of the wooden spear increases sharply, making it easier to kill hostile creatures. Anyway, the agility and physical strength beyond normal people are enough for the time being. With sufficient food and water, as well as a sandbox system, it is not a problem to walk out of the desert. After eating and drinking, he left the hole. The sea buckthorn tree outside was already very tall, protecting the residents like a wall. Walk out of the circular sea buckthorn forest that you have planted along the way. When you come to the water pool, you don't rush into action. Instead, you choose a higher position, use sandstone to step your feet, and jump up one block at a time until you have a panoramic view of the surrounding scenery. Look carefully for the location of dangerous creatures. The big crocodiles and wild dogs were wiped out, and the only dangerous creatures near the pool were elephants, lions, and wolves. Unexpectedly, besides them, there is a cheetah hiding in a tree, and the location is extremely hidden. If Ren was not careful and observed this method in advance, it is very likely that he would be raided by a cheetah on the way to the area where the lions are located. The cheetah was very fast, maybe it was too late to defend after seeing the red dot. Hurry up and mark these dangerous creatures on the virtual map to ensure that there are no other dangerous creatures, then return to the ground, or move cautiously. Starting from Ren, there are cheetahs, lions, wolves, and elephants in order. 1 cheetah, 17 lions, 7 wolves, 10 elephants, these are definitely more experienced than wild dogs. A wild dog has 30 experience points. It is estimated that if this batch is wiped out, it can be improved by about 2 levels. In fact, elephants are not predators. As long as they don't get close to them, they are basically safe. The reason why they are also targeted is that Ren thinks that elephants must have high experience in order to upgrade. The other is that the meat of the elephant must be more, and its skin can be used for more water bottles and armor. Walked all the way, stopped near the cheetah, and there was no red dot, built the same bunker as yesterday, took out the raw meat that was deliberately kept undercooked from the virtual backpack, put it in the window, sat inside and waited patiently. He has studied the wind direction and the location of the bunkers. The wind just blows the smell of raw meat towards the cheetah. Sure enough, after waiting for half an hour, a red dot appeared on the virtual map. The cheetah smelled raw meat and began to move this way. Ren waited quietly until the cheetah arrived at the bunker, and immediately raised his spear to prepare for battle. The cheetah found the shelter following the smell, and saw Ren and the raw meat hanging inside through the window. Whether it was the raw meat or his breath, the hungry predator went crazy, roared through the window, and began to attack the wooden window. With the protection of the bunker, Ren already had enough combat experience. He saw the timing and suddenly stabbed at the moment of the cheetah's roar, accurately piercing its throat. 10 points of strength made his melee damage extremely strong. Although the wooden spear was broken, the cheetah was struggling outside for a while because the broken spear penetrated the throat and eventually died. System: you kill a cheetah and gain 45 experience points. The first battle was won, and Ren's confidence increased. Recreate a wooden spear and leave the cover to collect corpses to get a lot of raw meat, leopard skin, and bones. Keep the bunker and continue moving forward. Anyway, there are a lot of blocks obtained by digging the basement, so there is no need to waste time to remove it. Come to the lion's territory, quickly create a bunker, or release the meat lure in the same way. When the lions smelled the blood, they came towards them. First, there were 2 male lions. After Ren relied on cover to stab them to death, other lionesses and cubs also arrived. The battle was relatively difficult, after all, there were a lot of lions. After a fierce battle, Ren, who used the cover perfectly, won again. Each adult lion contributes 50 experience points and the little lion supplies 30 experience points, allowing him to upgrade to level 4. The 5 attribute points obtained from the upgrade are all added to the strength, the melee attack has been improved by another level, and the upper limit of the backpack has been increased. Now Ren feels that he can easily lift a car and return to Earth to break the world weightlifting record. Rest in place for half an hour, solve the problem of lunch, and recover a little bit of strength. Then move on, come to the range of wolves' activities, and repeat the old trick. It was really easy to trap and kill the beasts, and the wolves were really attracted and tried to attack outside the bunker. As a result, of course, Ren won the victory, and all 7 desert wolves were killed. The final target is the elephant herd. This time, there is no way to lure them with raw meat, so they need to change their tactics. In addition, Ren felt that with the size and strength of an elephant, the bunker might not be safe. One head might break through a wooden door or a wooden window, and with 10 heads, it would be possible to flatten the bunker. Decided to test another building. Before going to the elephant group activity area, find an open space and place a square column with sandstone blocks, and then place the new block horizontally to make a 7 shape. Then switch to the wooden pickaxe and dig out the bottom sandstone block. Looking at the 7 character he built again, although the bottom block disappeared and lost its support point, it was still suspended in the air. Sure enough, just like the game, the blocks can be floated in the air. This is easy to do. As long as a simple floating platform is built near the elephant herd, reading www.yuyugonshu.com provokes them through the design of bows and arrows. The rushing elephant herd can't attack the self in the air, and can only circle helplessly under their feet. He can shoot arrows on the floating platform and grind them to death. Although this tactic is despicable, it is very effective. Elephants have rough skin and thick flesh, and poison arrows come in handy. Although there are not many, they can speed up the battle. After the planning was completed, Ren dashed all the way to the elephant activity area. At a certain distance, try not to disturb them. First, build a figure 7 high enough and hang it on a linen rope. Go down and dig out the square column, so that the platform is suspended, to prevent the elephant from hitting the column and shaking itself down. After completing the test, I tested it several times to ensure that I could climb up through the rope smoothly. Then I approached the elephant group with a bow and arrow, aiming and shooting at a similar distance. One of the elephants was shot and made a deafening cry. Sure enough, all the elephants turned into red dots and ran towards Ren. Ren immediately turned around, quickly ran to the floating platform, jumped to grab the rope, and quickly climbed to the top. The group of elephants had reached the bottom of the platform, and Ren, who raised his head in the air, shouted angrily, sticking out his nose to try to attack. Fortunately, the platform is high enough that the elephants cannot reach it. Ren was able to shoot down with a bow and arrow. One-sided advantage, using poison arrows to knock down a few elephants, and using ordinary wooden arrows to scrape the rest. After a long battle, all 10 elephants were killed by Ren. Each elephant has 80 experience points, and after Ren's second upgrade that day, the experience value is close to the edge of the upgrade. The 5 attribute points are still added to the strength, 20 points makes his melee attack quite amazing, and the upper limit of the backpack is getting higher and higher, which can store more resources. System: you get 60 raw meat. System, you get an elephant skin. System, you get an elephant trunk. System, you get 2 ivory. System, you get an elephant bone. Each elephant contributes 60 raw meat, and the trunk is also a precious ingredient. There are also elephant skins, which are much thicker than ordinary animal skins, and ivory, which is very precious on earth. Elephant skin can be used to make delicate leather armor with high defense, which is more durable than armor made of ordinary animal skin and can better defend against attacks. Ivory can be made into various ivory products, but special carving tools are required. The harvest is quite fruitful, and the next upgrade is very close. So he went back to the pool, chose the best location to build a bunker, and squatted to guard the animals that came to drink. He squatted until the sun went down, and successfully rose to level 6 by shooting animals of various sizes. The backpack was full of raw meat, animal skins, and various materials from animals. During this period, I made a set of thick leather armor with elephant skin, including thick leather armor, thick leather hat, thick leather pants, thick leather wrist guards, and the previous high-tube crocodile leather shoes, and finally replaced the prisoner suit. The rest of the hides were all processed into jugs, and each jug was filled. After a day of hunting, the food and water stored in the backpack is enough for Ren to eat for several months. Now he can go on the road with peace of mind and work hard to get out of the desert. Go back to the basement, cook all the raw meat and water first, then recycle the logs and branches left there. Found that with the current strength value, it can be completely loaded. Then there is no need to add the upgraded 5 attribute points to the strength. After thinking about it, I feel that the physical strength is enough after the rest time. After all, I have to rest at night, and it is impossible to rush on the road without sleep. In addition to the extreme heat period at noon, one is cold and one is hot, and the physical strength at 11 o'clock can be reserved. So all of them are added to agility to increase movement speed. The time you can hurry is fixed, so increase your movement speed to make yourself go faster. Adding agility can also enhance the long-range damage and the probability of dodging enemy attacks. In case of encountering terrifying sandworms again, high agility can make it easier for you to escape. Although the attribute bar was not displayed, through the previous battle, Ren felt that his agility attribute had increased his attack speed a little. After another comfortable night, I woke up the next day and my head injury has fully recovered. Ren changed from a wounded person to a normal person. The linen that was bandaging the wound was removed and washed, and he could continue to use it. Everything is ready, leave the cave and prepare to say goodbye to the oasis. After breakfast, Ren was full of energy. He walked to the water pool and glanced at the sparse sea buckthorn trees. There were a lot of animals busy drinking water. If it wasn't for the lack of space in his backpack, he was in a hurry to leave the desert and go to a more resource-rich area. Happy to stay and chop up all the sea buckthorn, hunt all the animals, and leave no resources. Now I choose to let this oasis go. Say goodbye to the animals from a distance, and head towards the eastern area covered by the fog of war. What followed was the boring daily commute, sheltering from the scorching sun and cold nights, and continuing to move. Relying on the stored food and water, he walked east for more than half a month. Ordinary people would have long since died in such a desperate situation. On the 20th day of leaving the oasis, near noon, Ren, who had been walking for a long time, rested in the shade under a gobi, and took out a crocodile skin water bottle to replenish water. He didn't know how far he had to get out of the desert, but he only knew that he had unlocked countless foggy areas along the way, all of which were all the same terrain, like a labyrinth. If the direction is not clearly marked on the virtual map, you may get lost at any time and be trapped in this desert with almost no end in sight. It's just that there is no choice but to persevere. The desert environment is really tough, even if there is enough food and water, the extreme weather that is very different during the day and night is very troublesome. While resting, he seemed to hear voices in the distance. Curious, he got up and looked around, and saw several humans walking towards him. After traveling through the trapped desert for so long, and finally seeing humans, Ren was a little excited. Then calmed down and entered a state of alert. After all, it is impossible to judge whether the humans from another world are enemies or friends, especially in the desert where resources are scarce and inaccessible. If the other party attacks you and tries to seize resources, it will be very troublesome. But seeing human beings means that there is hope to get out of the desert. A total of 3 people came, 2 men and 1 woman. The 2 men were wearing leather armor, holding iron swords and spears respectively, and the women were wearing cloth with bows and quivers behind them. They are all red-haired, over 20 years old, probably lacking water for a long time, their steps are a little weak, and their lips are cracked. The other party also noticed Ren, stopped a long way apart, and looked at each other. After discussing a few words in a low voice, the 3 took a step forward again and walked towards Ren. Ren temporarily put down the crocodile skin water bottle, took off the wooden bow and attached arrow branches, ready to fight at any time. The 3 people on the opposite side got closer and closer. Seeing Ren in a fighting stance, the female archer stepped forward and raised her hands. "Friend. We are adventurers passing by, and we have no ill intentions. Please put away your weapons." The 2 men in the back also raised their hands, trying their best to express goodwill. Seeing this, Ren lowered his bow and arrow, but remained vigilant. Although the other person spoke the language of another world, he completely understood it, because the original owner of the body was also a person from another world. Seeing Ren's lowering the wooden bow, the female archer breathed a sigh of relief, and glanced at the crocodile skin water bottle at his feet, looking bulging. She couldn't help but licked her lips and continued to shout, "Friend! We are from Storm City, the mission is to hunt sandworms. After entering the desert for about 10 days, we were attacked by sand monsters on the road, and the accompanying camels unfortunately escaped." Looking down at the crocodile skin water bottle, Ren got useful information from the other party's words. The 3 of them are adventurers. They entered the desert to hunt sandworms, the monster they encountered before. They came from a place called Storm City and entered the desert for about 10 days. In other words, if you walk for more than 10 days, you will be able to leave the desert. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but be overjoyed. He had water, but he didn't care about it, so he nodded and said, "You guys drink it." With permission, the 3 were pleasantly surprised. After thanking Ren, the female archer came first, picked up the crocodile skin kettle, opened the lid, raised her head and poured it into her mouth desperately. The 2 male warriors behind her looked impatient, but they didn't rush beside her. They waited until the female archer handed over the water bottle before rushing to drink. The female archer came over and thanked Ren again. At the same time, she crossed her hands on her chest and bowed politely to him, "You saved our lives, thank you so much. My name is Quina Rosa, it's Barton, Dylan and a member of the Rosa family, my family and my teammates.